over the years.
Yeah, you've got pasta tools and instruments, musical instruments, and landscape. I mean, you've covered the waterfront, the Italian waterfront. But let's go back to how you dealt. Okay, first of all, how I met you was just sort of a random. I work downtown, and friends of mine loved your cooking and the restaurant where you last worked at 10 Corso Como. So that's where I first met you. And so when that closed, you had to find another spot. And what was that like? Just, as you were, the timing is everything, they say. So you found something incredible, and you probably created your own brilliant position there. You are the executive chef and, I guess, the managing partner of
The
Leopard.
Yes.
The
yes.
Leopard.
Yeah.
So that's got great history, because I started to tell you, back in the 80s when I worked at Penthouse Magazine.
Amazing.
I know, 1967 Broadway, I believe it was. All right, I was an editor, so we won't get too crazy, but when I was there, we used to take our lunch breaks, and of course we were on 67th and Broadway, and occasionally we would wander over to the Café des Artistes and, break up the day. And I do recall, because that's got an incredible history, the hotel and the cafe, which we'll go into in a minute. But just to sort of tell you what happened, one day I spotted literally across the room. They used to have these incredible hard-boiled eggs on the table, so I'd order like a martini and an egg.
Solid
Great
lunch.
lunch, right?
Yeah.
Great lunch. And that was the only way I would have the nerve to do what I was about to do. There was, he passed away, but it was a brilliant jazz pianist and actor named Dudley Moore, British. And if you look him up, he's just an incredible actor. He's been in some great films. And I saw him across the legendary crowded room, and I said, "Oh my God!" I'd written this thing called Music Under Glass, a takeoff on Pheasant Under Glass, and it was all about the music behind theater and film and all that stuff. So I said, he's the perfect one to pitch it to, because he's a musician, he's a creative genius. And so I'd had my little martini, and I literally focused. I bolted across the room, and he was with this tall, drink of water blonde, and he's this short, amazing actor, and he's sitting with her, and the whole time I did not stop talking for about 2 minutes, and I focused on both of them, because there's one thing, women don't want you to just talk to the guy. So I was looking at her, looking at him, and I pitched this Music Under Glass, and he couldn't have been nicer. And he said, "Yeah, send it to me," which I did. But it was just unbelievable. This beautiful room with classic murals, and I believe the painter is the murals painter was very well known. I'm trying to look up his name now. I think Howard Chandler Christie. He was right. He's an illustrator and a portrait painter, and did a lot of celebrity paintings, and just these amazing murals all over the room. And it's a beautiful, beautiful room. And I think the hotel where a lot of artists lived, but the cafe there originally provided meals for the tenants, because the apartments had no kitchens. And so that was a whole landmark, legendary place, the Café des Artistes and the Hotel des Artistes. And the famous George Lang, young Hungarian boy whose parents died in Auschwitz, he escaped, and he was the only child of a tailor. He came over here, and he became associated with Restaurant Associates and became a banquet manager, helped with the Four Seasons. Anyway, he ran that place, I believe, from 1975 to 2009. And then it reopened. There was that whole recession, and it reopened in 2011 as the Leopard. So how did you create that opening for yourself? How did you get involved with the Leopard?
So Gianfranco, who has become a very dear friend of mine over the past years.
Gianfranco Sorrentino.
That's correct, Gianfranco Sorrentino. We were speaking, I would say around June or July of last year, about some opportunities that would potentially arise. And, I was at 10 Corso Como at the time, and being in the industry, I was starting to see some writing on the walls that things were, not moving in the right direction. There were some very, very big challenges that the restaurant faced. And so, Gianfranco, he's somebody I'm able to confide in, and I started to talk a little bit about the dynamic. So he was aware of, kind of the situation that I was in, and the conversations just kind of naturally evolved into potential opportunities, and it materialized into this. And the timing of it, like you and I meeting there, and just a fortuitous thing. It really couldn't have been, it was just meant to be.
And did they have an opening for a chef, or did they just say, "You're so brilliant, we need you here"?
Gianfranco was really, and there's some other business partner, his wife Paula, and there's an executive chef who has been with Gianfranco by the name of Vito, and they wanted to make some changes, and to they're forward-thinking people, and really wanting to evolve, and wanted to focus some different energy on the restaurant, and they had the faith in me to give me a shot at it, and hopefully breathe some new life in it, into the restaurant itself.
Well, that's phenomenal. And so then you opened there you started there in January, correct?
That's correct.
So you start this new job as executive chef at Leopard, and you go to Italy in February. You start in January, you go to Italy in February, and then everything shuts down in March, basically, right?
Exactly. So the timing of it was very impeccable again.
Oh, my God. And so what is it that you feel that have you brought to them certain types of recipes or anything? Well, certainly you're an amazing personality that blends in such a social, exuberant person. I mean, is it specific recipes that you brought to them, or did they have their set menus?
No, it was not specific recipes. It was, there was no mandate on what the food was going to be, or the direction of the menu. But they've given me total carte blanche into the direction that I want to take the restaurant and the food specifically, and they've been completely supportive. And we've really worked together in conversations and collaborated on some new ideas. And the primary vision of the food is something that we are very aligned in our thinking. It's very much about simple food. It's very much about seasonal food. It's very much about very well sourced food. And it's very much about the food of Italy, and so with that kind of approach that we're all have as a very important part of cooking, we've worked together and bounced ideas off of each other, and had the opportunity to, at least to a certain extent, to kind of hash out a few ideas of what we would like the restaurant to look like. And once we start to move forward.
Right. So you're reopening in August, I believe?
We're hoping to open on August 1st. That is the plan as of right now. And there were so many different variables at this point, obviously, with the virus happening, and what are going to be the mandates by the city. So we were hoping that July 6th we would be able to at least start to do some indoor dining at 50% capacity, but it's looking like that's going to be a little bit on pause at this point.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because then you'll just think up much more creative ideas in your head.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, it would be nice to kind of get the ball rolling, and starting to. I think everybody kind of wants that to happen, at least.
Yeah. Well, talk about some of your favorite recipes or meals that you like to make. I mean, the pasta stroncatura recipe is that's on your website, and you've got such beautiful pictures of timballo alla norma, pasta vongole, octopus, homemade couscous. Unbelievable. I don't know how you make homemade couscous, but
It's a process, but so you just buy it. It's probably easier.
But is there something that you really love to make, or is it all based on the, like you were saying, the sourced ingredients?
Yeah, I think that that is a fundamental aspect of the cooking that I like. I would much rather eat something very simply prepared that really highlights the ingredients and kind of let them speak for themselves. And that's very much an Italian way of cooking, and it's really about the seasonality and the freshness and the quality.
Yeah.
And
so where does that come? Where do those come from? Things like great tomatoes or great.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a fair question, because obviously in New York you have very limited growing seasons. So,
right.
Yeah, sure, you can have amazing tomatoes for a few months out of the year.
Right.
So, a lot of the recipes and the dishes have to be modified for the seasonality of them. But then there's also great relationships that have been cultivated with these amazing artisanal farmers that have, great cheese, or they make, they grow and preserve unbelievable tomatoes, or they make unbelievable pasta with some of the best wheat that's grown in the world. So, but you could find a lot of those types of ingredients that can kind of be your main staples, and then.
So these would be from farmers upstate or on the island, or
I say it again.
Would these be farmers from upstate or on Long Island?
Well, certainly the produce that we buy is when it's in season is typically from at least the tri-state area of New York,
right.
Connecticut and New Jersey and New York State and Pennsylvania. There's so many amazing farmers doing such great work. So not only do we find it very important to advocate and support them, it's actually advantageous to us to have such great ingredients accessible.
Yeah.
And then there's amazing, again, producers in Sicily or in Puglia or in Tuscany that make amazing products that they could get to us, and we can really, again, be supportive of them to highlight their ingredients, and then hopefully provide amazing food to the guests that are very conscientious of what they're eating and how they're eating and why they're eating what they're eating, and be part of that experience for them as well.
So do you? I know that you used to come out and talk to the guests at the restaurant. Is that a thing that you can do at Leopard's?
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly is, and I actually, for better for worse, it's both exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time, because some of the best feedback I've gotten have been from guests that don't tell you exactly what you necessarily want to hear, but sometimes that's just how you get better. You don't always want to hear how great everything was, because then I feel like you're lying to me. So yeah, I think that I love doing that. It's one part of the favorite parts of my job is to be able to interact with guests and cultivate a relationship, and show them what I do every day and what I'm excited about, and the relationships that we have, and really, if they have an interest, I'd love to share it with them.
Of course. Now, so is it what is the guest set like? Is it all ages? Is it more adult? Is it more formal?
I would say that it's definitely an older clientele. The location is on the Upper West Side of New York, so the demographic is considerably older. You definitely have a very cultured clientele, that a lot of people that are going to theater, or doing other art focused types of events. So obviously our business is going to be completely decimated until things like Broadway and Lincoln Center and all of these institutions reopen. So we do see a lot of that. I believe that there's opportunity in cultivating a new demographic of guests as well, because there's certainly younger people up in the neighborhood.
Definitely.
And I would have to say that they're younger without children, and so potentially a little bit of disposable income, and we would love to have them be part of our guest list as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, when you live downtown, you don't tend to go uptown, and vice versa. But certainly millennials are everywhere.
Right. And, I think that, again, the opportunity after this virus passes and we start to see some